Every month, I had the same problem. My salary came in. I felt rich for about 3 days. Then rent came out. The electricity bill came. My phone bill. Food. Transportation. Subscriptions. A few random purchases I couldn't even remember making. And suddenly, I was staring at my bank account wondering, where did all my money go? The strange part was, I wasn't earning terribly. I wasn't unemployed. I wasn't living some crazy luxury lifestyle. I was simply spending almost everything I earned. And for years, I thought the solution was obvious. I needed to make more money. But then something happened that completely changed the way I looked at my finances. I realized that if I kept increasing my income without changing the way I managed it, I could make twice as much money and still feel broke. So I tried something different. I stopped trying to earn my way out of the problem. And instead, I learned how to keep more of what I already earned. That's how I finally stopped living paycheck to paycheck. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel is 27 years old. He earns a decent salary. Every month, around $3,500 enters his bank account after taxes. At first glance, that sounds pretty good. But Daniel never felt rich. His rent costs $1,200. Transportation takes another $400. Food costs around $500. Utilities and his phone take another $250. Then there are subscriptions, entertainment, clothes, eating out, random purchases, and a few things he tells himself are necessary. By the end of the month, almost nothing is left. Sometimes, he's even using his credit card to get through the final week. Then payday arrives, and everything starts again. Paycheck, spending, stress, credit card, paycheck, spending, stress. It became a loop. And the most dangerous thing about this loop is that it can feel completely normal. You can live this way for years without realizing you're trapped. Daniel thought his biggest problem was his salary. But his salary wasn't the only problem. His biggest problem was that every dollar already had a job before it even reached his bank account. One evening, Daniel was sitting in his car after work. He checked his bank account. There was $47 left. Payday was still 4 days away. He looked at the number for a few seconds. Then he laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he'd seen that number so many times that it had almost become normal. That's when he asked himself a different question. Not, how can I make more money? But, why do I need every dollar I make just to survive the month? That question changed everything. Because Daniel realized something uncomfortable. He had been treating his salary like a bucket. Every month, the bucket filled up. And instead of deciding where the water should go, he simply let everything around him poke holes in it. Rent created one hole. Food created another. Entertainment created another. Impulse purchases created another. Debt created another. And by the end of the month, the bucket was almost empty. So Daniel decided to stop trying to find a bigger bucket. He would fix the holes first. The first thing he did. The next month, Daniel tried something incredibly simple. Before spending anything, he paid himself first. Not $1,000. Not half his salary. Just $250. The moment his salary arrived, $250 automatically moved into a separate savings account. And Daniel made one rule. That money was not part of his spending money. This sounds simple, but psychologically it changed everything. Before this, Daniel saved whatever happened to be left at the end of the month. And do you know what was usually left? Nothing. That's because I'll save what's left sounds responsible. But it often means saving is competing against every temptation that appears during the month. A restaurant doesn't care about your savings goal. A new phone doesn't care. An online sale doesn't care. Your friends inviting you out don't care. So Daniel stopped asking himself to have perfect discipline. He automated the decision. His savings happened first. Then he lived on what remained. But there was a problem. Saving $250 felt good. For about 2 weeks. Then Daniel realized something. He was still spending too much. So he opened his bank statements. And for the first time, he looked at his spending without trying to justify it. He discovered something embarrassing. He wasn't losing his money because of one huge purchase. He was losing it through dozens of small decisions. $18 here. $27 there. $12 for something he forgot about. $40 because he was too tired to cook. $15 for a subscription he barely used. None of these purchases looked dangerous individually. But together, they were quietly eating hundreds of dollars every month. This is one of the most important things about personal finance. Financial problems aren't always caused by big mistakes. Sometimes they're caused by small decisions repeated so many times that you stop noticing them. Daniel didn't need to eliminate everything enjoyable. He just needed to know where his money was actually going, the three-bucket system. So Daniel created three simple categories for his money. The first bucket was survival: rent, food, transportation, utilities, the things he genuinely needed. The second bucket was freedom: savings, emergency funds, investments, money that would make future Daniel less dependent on his next paycheck. The third bucket was life: restaurants, entertainment, hobbies, trips, things he enjoyed. And this third category was important because Daniel didn't want a financial plan that made him miserable. He didn't want to spend every waking moment thinking about money. He simply wanted his spending to have boundaries. So instead of saying, "I can't spend anything," he said, "This is how much I can spend without destroying my future." That difference was huge. Then he found the real culprit. A few months later, Daniel received a small raise. His first instinct was to upgrade his lifestyle: a nicer apartment, a newer car, more restaurants, a better phone. After all, he was earning more. But this time he stopped. He remembered something. A raise doesn't automatically create wealth. If your expenses rise at the same speed as your income, you can earn more without becoming financially stronger. So Daniel created another rule. Whenever his income increased, his lifestyle would increase slowly. Not immediately. His raise came in. Most of the extra money went toward savings and investing. A smaller portion went toward improving his lifestyle. For the first time, a pay raise actually made Daniel richer. Not just more comfortable. Richer. The number that changed his mind. 6 months into this experiment, Daniel checked his finances again. He had built an emergency fund. His credit card balance was shrinking. He had money automatically moving into investments. And most importantly, he wasn't terrified of payday anymore. But there was something else. Daniel calculated his savings rate. Before making these changes, almost 100% of his income disappeared into spending. Now, he was consistently keeping around 15% of his income. That might not sound impressive, but think about what had changed. He hadn't doubled his salary. He hadn't started $1 million business. He hadn't discovered some secret investment. He simply stopped allowing every increase in income to immediately become an increase in spending. And that's when Daniel understood the difference between earning money and building wealth. Making more money still matters. Now, let's be clear. Making more money can absolutely improve your financial life. If you're underpaid, increasing your income can be incredibly important. Learning valuable skills matters. Getting a better job matters. Building a business can matter. But there's a problem. If you increase your income before learning how to manage it, your lifestyle often expands with it. Imagine two people. Person A earns $3,000 a month and spends $2,950. Person B earns $5,000 a month and spends $4,950. Who is financially stronger? The second person earns more. But both are only keeping $50. Income matters. But the gap between what you earn and what you spend matters too. That gap is where your future lives. That's where your emergency fund comes from. That's where investments come from. That's where freedom begins. The paycheck to paycheck trap. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't always about being poor. Sometimes it's about having no margin. If every dollar has somewhere to go, one unexpected expense can destroy the entire month. Your car breaks down. Your phone stops working. You get sick. Your rent increases. Your hours get cut. And suddenly, you're reaching for a credit card. That's why an emergency fund isn't just a pile of money sitting there doing nothing. It's a financial shock absorber. It gives you breathing room. Instead of an unexpected $500 expense becoming a crisis, it becomes an inconvenience. And there's a massive psychological difference between those two things. What Daniel actually changed. After 1 year, Daniel looked back at his old financial life. His salary wasn't dramatically different. His life wasn't dramatically more luxurious. But his relationship with money had completely changed. He had 3 things he didn't have before: a system, a margin, and a plan. He knew what his essential expenses were. He knew how much he could spend freely. He saved automatically. He avoided allowing every raise to become another expense. And he gradually built money that didn't depend on his next paycheck. That was the real breakthrough. Daniel didn't become financially free because he suddenly discovered a secret. He became stronger financially because he stopped making every month a race to zero. The lesson: maybe you're listening to this and thinking, but I genuinely don't earn enough. And if that's your situation, don't ignore that. Sometimes the answer really is increasing your income. But while you're working toward that, you can still ask yourself 3 questions. Where is my money actually going? How much of my income am I keeping? And what happens to my money when my income increases? Because if every raise disappears into a bigger lifestyle, you might spend your entire life chasing a number that keeps moving. You don't necessarily need a perfect budget. You don't need to stop enjoying your life. You don't need to become obsessed with saving every penny. You need a system that makes your future self a priority. Start small. Automate something. Build an emergency fund. Control the biggest unnecessary expenses. Give yourself spending limits. And when your income rises, don't immediately spend all of the increase. Let some of it become freedom. Because the goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to reach a point where one bad week doesn't destroy your entire month. A point where payday is no longer rescue. It's simply another day. And maybe that's what financial freedom really feels like. Not driving the most expensive car. Not wearing the most expensive clothes. Not having millions sitting in a bank account. But waking up one morning, checking your finances, and realizing, I'm okay. You have savings. You have a plan. You have some breathing room. And for the first time, your entire life isn't depending on the next paycheck. That's the moment money starts working differently. Not because you suddenly made more, but because you finally learned how to keep more of what you already had. If this video changed the way you think about your money, subscribe. Because building wealth isn't always about earning more. Sometimes, it's about finally giving the money you already earn a better job.